All right, guys, so here is the walkthrough for photosynthesis that I promised you. Sorry, it's taken me a while. So first of all, I have this sheet on Schoology for you to access if you want to print it out. If you want to print it out at home. If you also want, I have copies in the classroom for you, and I'll talk to you about that in class. So first we want to start big picture. This is, of course, our plant cell with our cell walls on the outside. You don't really see, these are mitochondria. Then these guys here, this would be the chloroplast. And then this large thing in the middle would be a vacuole. So if you zoom in on the chloroplast here, you can see how it's very bean-shaped. You have these granum, these stacks, okay? And you don't have to color this if you don't want to. But so these are the granum. Look at how they're all connected. Then each one of these, this is a thylakoid, okay? So this would be one area that we would be focusing on. The area around in all of this area, this is the stroma, or what we would casually, not scientifically, call the cytoplasm-like area of the chloroplast. Stroma is a fluid. It is not... The stroma is a fluid. It is not cytoplasm, so we cannot call it cytoplasm. But so that's what we're looking at. So we have the plant cell, and in the plant cell we have the chloroplast. If we zoom in on the structure of the chloroplast, we have two main areas here. The thylakoid membranes individually, which form stacks called a granum, and multiple stacks are grana. And that is our two areas where our reaction takes place. All right, so if we continue on this zooming in, we're going to zoom in from this area here into our thylakoid membrane. And one of the things that I don't like about this is this space would be like this. So you would have phospholipids, a phospholipid bilayer here all the way around. So I'm not drawing all the phospholipids. But so this space E, if you look, this is your inner thylakoid space. Basically, it's a hole, a small opening on the inside of the thylakoid, okay? It has a phospholipid bilayer just like our cell does. All right, so one of the other things that we want to focus on is the photosystems. Okay, so the photosystems are these two big green guys here. I'm not going to do a super great job coloring them. So these are your photosystems. This first one, this is photosystem. I'm going to write it over here, photosystem 2. And then this guy is photosystem 1. Okay, so that is what these two guys are. These blobs here are part of the electron transport chain where they move around transporting the electrons. This guy here, if we look at D, this is going to be our ATP synthase. Okay, so I'm just going to label this here. All right, so what happens in this process? So one of the first things that happens is you have some electrons that are hanging out here, okay? And those electrons will get some energy from the sun, will be received by the chloroplast into the thylakoid and into this photosystem 2. And then that energy will ignite and excite our electrons. So that's the first thing that happens is our energizing the electrons, okay? Then the electron is going to get past, these high energy electrons are going to go down the electron transport chain, okay? And we'll come back to them in a second. So the excitation of the electrons and moving it into the electron transport chain. So now there's a void here, and this is where I'm in a static 2D model, right? So down here we have in this is our stroma area. So this is our stroma. This is our yellow area of our map. This is our fluid area. This is where the water would be, okay? So an edge of the photosystem is going to take the water, and it is going to break the water into oxygen, which will then become O2 and leave. And then it's also going to build hydrogens, split off a hydrogen, and then it's going to release 2 electrons to replace the electrons that were lost when the first electrons got excited. So that's the second part that happens. All right. So the next thing that happens, let's go back to this electron. So he's going to move down, okay, and then he's going to keep moving down. And what's going to happen to him as he moves down into this photosystem 2 is that he's going to have lost all his energy. Okay, so just like you've been on a long car ride, so this is step 3. We're traveling long distances and we're reaching photosystem 1, but we have 0 energy. We just don't have a lot of energy. So step 4 is we're going to have a re-excitation or re-excitement of the electrons. So we're going to take our light energy, our chlorophyll in our photosystem is going to ignite the electron. There's more than one electron in there. And then we're going to pass it to this guy who is going to take some NADP plus, those electrons, and H plus, and give us, let's put it down here, NADPH. Okay, so that is step 5. We're going to get all that stuff out, okay? While we were in step 3, we had just naturally some hydrogens are in here, okay? But we also have some of these hydrogens that are down here are going to go through, and for every electron that is moved down, we have hydrogens building up. And so what we end up having is in this tiny, tiny little space, we have a buildup of hydrogen ions, okay? So that's going to trigger our ATP synthase to work. ATP synthase is going to take the hydrogens and suck them through like a vacuum cleaner to the other side, and that's going to allow for some balance and homeostasis. When it does that, this bulbous part here will turn. When that turns, this guy takes, trying to figure out where I can write all this, ADP plus a free phosphate ion, and when we add those two together, we get ATP. So that is going to be so this is step 6, the buildup of the hydrogens, and then this is step 7 all together here with our ATP synthase. So 7 steps to the light-dependent reaction. But really what you need to focus on is that water splits to form oxygen and release electrons, that 2 photosystems can absorb light and excite electrons, and that the end goal here is to make this NADPH and ATP, okay? Down here, we're in the stroma, and the stroma is where the Calvin cycle happens, okay? So in the Calvin cycle, we're going to start with 3 5-carbon molecules, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then that's going to be times 3. So that means we have a total of how many carbons? 5 times 3 is 15 carbons. Remember, there are hydrogens and oxygens, but we're not focusing on them, okay? I'm going to write little C's here. I'm not going to do that every other time. This is a special 5-carbon molecule. So now we're going to add 3 CO2s from the atmosphere, okay? So that's going to be 1 carbon, 2 carbons, 3 carbons. So now what we're going to get is, instead of just adding 1 to each, okay, so we're going to get our 6 molecules of carbon first, but then they're going to split into 6 groups of 3. Okay, so this was times 3, and then this is times 6. All right, so this was 18. So 15 plus 3 is 18 carbons. And then when we split into 6 groups of 3, we still have 18 carbons. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to give our ATP, and we're going to make ADP, and then we're going to give our NADPH, and we're going to make NADP+. Okay? And so what we get is, it looks like the exact same thing, but now we've got some phosphates, we've got some electrons, we're high energies, 1, 2, 3, times 6, all right? And now we can lose 1 group of 3, okay? So that gives us 1, 2, 3 times 5, which will then turn into 3 groups of 5. So what do we care about the light-dependent reaction? Well, we care that we're taking a gaseous atmospheric carbon, we're combining it into a cycle in which we are able to release half of a sugar. So remember, in the formula for photosynthesis, we have 3 carbons just going here. So in the formula, we have 6. So that means we have to go around twice. That also makes sense because glucose is C6H12O6. So we need 2 of these guys to get glucose. All right, so I know that was quick and dirty. I'm going to link a couple other videos to help you, and that was a little faster than we did in class, but again, this was just a recap. Know that none of the details of this are on your quiz, and there will be just overview questions on your test. So thank you so much.